I'm Zack.
And I'm Jennifer, and this is episode 550 of the Lawyerist podcast, part of the Legal Talk Network. Today, Zack, right there, talks with Gyi and Conrad about how AI is affecting your marketing.
I feel like there's supposed to be a thing where it's like, this episode is brought to you by...
Is there? Was it brought to you by something?
This episode is brought to you by artificial intelligence.
Sure. That's, just in general, the concept as it was invented, no specific one, just AI as a concept.
Yeah, well, I don't know. This podcast is brought to you by Alan Turing. Let's do that.
R.I.P.
Yeah.
Horrible ending. Wonderful man.
Yeah.
Probably. I watched the movie. That's all I know is from Benedict Cumberbatch playing him. Correct?
Oh, The Imitation Game.
Yes, The Imitation Game, where he plays Alan Turing. And in that, I really appreciate him as a person. Here's something I actually want to talk about, though. That's not AI.
Okay.
And it is our best law firm website contest for this year. This is a contest we run every year around this time. We invite people to submit their websites to us. We have specifications. You can look at past winners on our websites. We can put that in the show notes. But Zack, tell me a little bit about, first, let's just talk about what makes a law firm the best.
Oh, I'd say about $200 in my pocket.
Okay. Yes.
Yeah.
Also, I don't like money. I think money is dumb, but I would take 200 orange Tic Tac boxes because that's the currency I trade in. Okay. But
yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
What makes a law firm the best?
Well, so we've got a couple of videos coming out on this, but really it comes down to a lot of times usability and authenticity.
Say more.
It's really like think about what your clients need, what your potential clients need. They need to be able to navigate your website, right? And then they need to be able to get to the place that you want them to go. Just contact you, probably, maybe call you, maybe email you, something like that. And when it really boils down to it, your website, because a lot of times it's kind of the end of the funnel, it just needs to do it's this simple. It needs to do what your client needs it to do. That's it. But when we talk about the specifics of it, it needs to be, your clients are working on their mobile phones, so it needs to be mobile responsive. Some of your clients may have visual impairment, so it needs to be helpful to someone who's visually impaired, or one of the things that people don't often think about when we're talking about accessibility is words, concepts. It needs to be something that can be understood by your clients. Like, we don't need to use legal jargon. I guess unless your client, if your clients are other law firms, maybe, but
right, that would be the exception.
If you're doing, I was about to say, if you're just doing divorces, if you're doing divorces, if you're solely doing divorces, let's say it that way, you need to speak to humans, human people. So the best law firm websites connect with their clients where they are.
Yeah. And I would say they need to elicit some sort of emotional, like all of that, get that done, you're golden. You want to go next level, can you elicit some sort of emotional reaction that is authentic and not forced? As in, can I go to your website anxious, confused, scared, not know where to turn, and I read your website and my anxiety ratchets down 5% because I feel like, okay, these people got me. I feel steady. They're experts. They know what they're doing. They're going to guide me through this process and it's going to be okay. Can it elicit that reaction? Then I think off to the moon for you in a good way.
Yeah. And I think that goes with, authenticity. And then just trustworthiness.
Do you have a website you like that's not necessarily a law firm website, but one that really stands out to you?
Oh man, it's almost as if we as if I told you that I had a website.
Don't tell them behind the scenes. This is
Oh,
just natural. I just thought of this
this
question
whole
at
thing
the
is
top
always
of my
natural.
head.
So I told you before we started recording. For years, for like 20 years now, since college, I have been going to the website of the band, the Gorillas,
With a Z.
with a Z, um, a lot, like often, in order to see what new way they are imagining the website experience. Years ago, the Gorillas website was, if you're not familiar with the band is, it is characters. It's animated characters, essentially. And the website years ago was their house, and you could move through their house and like play their record player. You could play video games in their room. And so I just go to the Gorillas website to see what's going on. Now it helps that I like the music, because a lot of times you'll get on there and the music will be playing automatically, or there's video or something like that. But I like to go on there and see what's up, like what's kind of new,
You're
what.
immersed.
Yeah, well, how can we be thinking about the website experience differently, you know? Um, and that's like that's the next level. But they know who their potential website viewer is. It's not somebody who's looking for the best divorce lawyer in Detroit. It's some weirdo like me that's like, I want to hear some music.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I go there to, I don't know, get inspired. But you were talking about can it elicit a feeling.
Yeah.
Like I go there and yeah, it's relaxed. I'll put, right now they have a playlist of their songs, actually their videos that are on the website that just automatically start playing. So I'll pop on there and then just have that on in the background.
We don't recommend that, by the way. I mean, special cases, yes, but maybe don't have something
automatically playing.
Yes.
No, because your clients aren't going to want
your
that.
clients don't want that.
Yeah,
Gorillas fans, yes.
Yes.
The point is not to do that, but it is to know who your client is well to know what would appeal to them.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's, I mean, it's kept me coming back, a ton of times. So what about you? What's a website that you go to?
I told you not to ask me because I wasn't going to be able to think about it at the top of my head.
I mean, other than like Prodigy.com,
this is what I said Prodigy because that was my first internet in 1993. I was president of the Pets message board. I can't say that was the best UI, but it did keep me coming back.
Well, but because it had a purpose, it was doing a thing for you. It was providing value, right?
Yes. Let's spin this. Yeah, it provided value for me. Like I don't think your website has to provide community, but I went to that message board. And I'm like, this is who I am. I love pets, and I want to talk about pets, and I want to run for office to be the president of the pets. And it appealed to me in that way. And we're giving you these silly examples because I also want you to think bigger than just,
yes,
what information do people need? Okay, that's great. That should be a foundation. How can they easily get that information? Great. How can we elicit emotion? Great. But your website can be your whole world. You can do so much with it, and it doesn't have to cost a lot. It just has to cost your imagination. You can do whatever you want with it. You don't have to stay in a cookie cutter,
right?
Like, this is how law firms have always been done, and this is what they look like. No.
I swear to you, if your website has, like rich mahogany in the background and scales of justice and things like that, it's unlikely that it's actually speaking to your potential clientele.
Right. And you have to think about different generations too, because rich mahogany is not necessarily speaking to the generation that's coming up that might need to talk about their estate plans or talk about their divorces or even talk about trademarks, that as they're thinking about stuff. Like, rich mahogany is not the color of Gen A or Gen X or Gen Alpha or
Alpha.
Gen Alpha.
I like to think they're Gen Sigma at this point,
Oh,
because
yeah,
they're
I
I
get
don't
it.
I don't like any. No, I'm just kidding.
I
Don't
get
come
what
after
you're
me.
saying. But the point is just like things are changing. You're not big law. You are the speedboats that are agile against the barges of big law. You get to do what feels right to you and what feels right to your clients. So just take this as the inspiration to just try something interesting. Be interesting.
Yeah, so that segues into my conversation with Gyi and Conrad that's coming up, because marketing is about standing out.
Yes.
And
Authentically, though, that's such a line.
Yeah, it really is, especially in this world of artificial intelligence, that we can, and we get into it in the podcast, but we can create so much shit with generative AI. We can create video. I can create a damn podcast from a white paper.
This is AI right now. We created this all through voice spoofing. No, we didn't. No AI could do this.
No AI.
There's an element of randomness that doesn't follow the pattern recognition of AI right now.
Yep. But so much content can be created right now that the content marketing game is not about it's not about the amount anymore.
Yeah.
It's not about quantity. You can't just overwhelm stuff. It's people are looking for quality. People are looking for you.
Right.
Who's looking for you? Your clients. Your clients are looking for you.
Yes.
Why? Because you have value. Like I know that marketing and selling your services a lot of times feels dirty to lawyers. I know a lot of lawyers who do not want to charge people for doing the thing because they just want to solve problems for people.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, these people need you.
Yes.
They want to find you. They want your services. You are providing a hopefully fantastic service to people, and stand out. Let them know. Let them know you're there.
Yeah. But don't feel pressured to not be someone who's not yourself. That's a lot of things we're throwing at you. But the idea is just sit down, brainstorm your wildest ideas, and then pare those down into something that's actually doable for you. But start wild.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and while you're waiting on the AI to get back to you and give you the content or the answer to whatever question you have right there, go over to Apple Podcasts and leave us a review. It helps our AI. It helps people,
and mention
helps people
us
find
specifically. Just kidding. You don't
mention Jennifer specifically. So, but now here's my conversation with Gyi and Conrad.
Hey, this is Conrad Saam. I am a co-host of Lunch Hour Legal Marketing, and I'm here with my good friend
Gyi Tsakalakis, also a co-host of Lunch Hour Legal Marketing, and I also think of myself as shy.
Thanks.
I think the audience obviously thinks that you guys are shy after this. Gyi, Conrad, thanks for being with me. I'm Zack, host of the Lawyers podcast. And that's what you're listening to right now, in case you heard Conrad and Gyi's voices and thought, am I in a different place? Am I on a different podcast than what I usually listen to? Because you can obviously catch them on Lunch Hour Legal, on the YouTubes, on Apple Podcasts, Spotify Podcasts, any podcast that you want to get into, and you can easily see them on LinkedIn as well. They have a lot of good content there that you can catch. We'll put links to that stuff in the show notes, but let's jump into this thing. We're talking AI and marketing, guys, right? How is consumer behavior? Like how do we, as lawyers who are trying to get our website seen and our website visited and our phones ringing, how do we adjust what we're doing in marketing to account for that?
Conrad, what do you got?
Well, sorry for being a bad guest, but I'll do this twice. I'm taking umbrage with your assumption.
You take that out of every podcast we do.
I love it. I love it. I mean,
it's just me and you. Usually I can be an asshole to you. Now I'm an asshole as a guest to our host. No, I think
I'm not that good a host.
You need, in your mind, not you, but the listenership needs to realize that our objective is not to get people to our website. Because if that's what we're going to try, you are swimming against the tide of the economics of what make platforms go round.
What do you mean by that, Conrad?
Yeah. Expand, please.
LinkedIn makes $0 as soon as you go to someone's website. And we've seen this with engagement, right? So you throw a link into your post in LinkedIn and all of a sudden you get much less distribution. And so we play all these stupid games about like linked in the comments below, right?
Yeah.
Shit like that. So we know this. We've known this for years. It just makes sense. I think we need to think about the way different platforms connect to a law firm. And that is not necessarily, not always, but not necessarily through a direct click to the site, right? Which throws all the traditional marketing, attribution, UTM parameters, call rail, all that stuff becomes really, really difficult. So we get hazier about what's actually working because we're losing the kind of granularity that you can get that we had 10 years ago when I knew where every single click to my website came from. And I knew that 99% of the phone calls that came into my law firm were from my website, right? So that's that is gone. That toothpaste is not going back in the tube.
So I'm going to hit this answer in a slightly different light. So you answered very literally, and I agree with you completely.
Yeah.
The question of clicking through to websites. But if we're going to zoom out a little bit and say, well, how is this stuff impacting consumer behavior from a law firm's perspective in terms of like awareness and affinity and searches for lawyers and that kind of thing? Well, of course, it's dramatically impacting that because we're already seeing ChatGPT and Perplexity and these other technologies showing up in qualitative attribution data. And what we mean by that is that when you ask someone, how did you hear about us, or who do we thank when for referring us, they say, you see right in the CRM, it says ChatGPT. And so my big things here are, and you know, we could spend a whole time talking about the how the LLMs work and the flux and the data sources and all this kind of stuff. Here's my short version. It's not that much different than what we've historically done. Maybe you reprioritize directories. Maybe you do some research in what are the sources, the source sites that the GPT is using for their response to a prompt, and prioritize appearing in those or making sure information's accurate in those. But the truth is, it's kind of a fool's errand because of the flux, you know, and the way that the GPT works. But here's my big thing with all this. All that being, like, you can do all those things that we just said, and we could talk about that. But the thing that's most important to me is the impact on the way that the consumers are engaging with the technology. See, historically, we think of search, we think of keywords, and like people type a keyword in. This is totally different. This is conversational. And so optimizing around keywords or optimizing around queries is really, again, a fool's errand. Like, it's really understanding, and this is still true even in historical marketing things, who your audience is, what are the issues they're dealing with, what questions are they likely to type into one of these prompts, what are the all the different follow-up kind of questions that they might have, what are the refinements on their queries, and making sure that your what you're publishing in the world is responsive to those questions. So
are we losing this kind of like time period? And please don't make fun of me too much if I'm, you know, way behind. We losing this time period where we could really track where, like, we got that minutia, got that granular stuff. But in my mind, that granular stuff wasn't necessarily like it was kind of a you know, it was there, we looked at it, we used it, we might even use it to drive what we're doing. But really what we need to be doing is what y'all are saying anyway, which is the actual marketing, the, you know, speaking to people appropriately, trying to figure out where people are coming from. I've seen a lot of people where they'll spend on Google ads because they can track it, when in reality they get their stuff from referrals, but they just never ask, where did you get this? You know, who referred you? It's easier. It's lazier to go look at that Google Analytics.
Well, and it's in the agencies and the marketing people's self-interest to say that everything's coming from Google pay-per-click, or if they're an SEO person, organic search. But and I know Conrad's got a lot of thoughts, and he's building up for a crescendo here. The one thing that I will say though, in terms of the quantitative data, is look, there are still legal services consumer journeys that are very linear: search, click, call, hire. That exists, and for those journeys, you should hold those dollars accountable for those linear paths. The issue is not that everything is totally gone. Now, in the context of GPTs, yes, there is no GPT analytics, right? You're not going to get the actual data. However, there's plenty of companies that are working on modeling the same way that a lot of places model for rank tracking. What businesses show up for relevant prompt responses in GPTs. And so that's an indirect measurement or assessment of whether or not you're appearing. Now, we got a long way to go on that, and whether or not that's actually a reliable data source in the long term is still TBD, because again, what I see is this: the flux is the problem. The personalization is the problem. Remember, when you're logged into these GPTs, it's remembering your interactions with them. And so, for example, if I say, give me a list of the best SEO companies for lawyers, and Attorney Sync's not on that list, and I say, hey, this list should include Attorney Sync, guess what happens? Every time I do that from now on, I see Attorney Sync show up in the results when I'm logged in.
So for those of you who are Gyi's clients, and he's convinced you that he's doing a great job.
Well, it might not show up for them. It might not show up for them.
No. But so here's
the
tactic. Here's shitty agent. Sorry, Gyi would not do this. Here's shitty agency. Here's a way to make it look like you're doing a good job. Go teach your clients to train the chat GPTs of the world to recommend their firm, show their sites, and convince your clients that that is representative of what is showing up in the rest of the world.
But how different is that than just being like, why don't you search for your firm name from your firm office?
I know, it's the
for
same,
your non-brand queries from your firm
so
office.
This is why Gyi and I have no friends, because
this is why Conrad has to pay to speak now.
I have to pay to speak, and I have a larger litigation budget than most firms.
than most.
No, but like, this is the problem, right? So like, it's very easy. These types of shenanigans exist. And it's very easy to convince people that that's how it works, but and to give these kind of false positive success. And it's no different from SEO. It's no different from the people who are taking credit for brand queries and pay-per-click and passing them off as, Family Lawyer, Des Moines, Iowa. It's no different than people running GBP and taking credit for the billboard phone call, the billboards that are driving phone calls into, like, this is the same. Gyi's point, and I can't, we should move off of this, but the direct response stuff, pay-per-click, LSAs, some SEO, where you don't have a starting point, you don't have a law firm, you're doing research, you're going to make a purchase today, or at least make the inquiry today, that still represents a massive portion of the market. 60, 70, 80% of the market looks like that, right? Depending on the firm, Gyi's giving me the
Well,
depending
I would say
on the firm.
I would say depending on the audience, but yes.
Well, but like, I mean, if there are plenty of firms, like, you don't have to have a brand to generate business from the internet.
100%.
Yeah.
You don't.
But it certainly helps.
It helps. It helps. And it makes the economics better, blah, 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 blah. We've talked about this ad nauseum. But a huge portion, like, the AI thing is interesting. It's fascinating. It's the direction. It's the change, blah, blah, blah. If you take your eye off, if you want to dominate your market, go take, like, reassess your ambitions, right? Unless you have a massive budget, because to dominate your market, you need to play in very expensive, high volume, direct response channels. You have to do that, right?
Yeah.
And that's just a part of it. So I don't want, like, I love the AI thing. I love the change. I love the direction. I love these pontifications, but, like, let's not kid ourselves that a huge portion of the market still goes through these trackable direct response things.
Well, let's talk about, though, something that Gyi was saying in there, which is, what is it your clientele is interested in? What's their path? Are they looking at, local service pack? Are they searching for people on, maps or going to ChatGPT? And you guys said something before we got on about, thinking about AI in marketing in a different way and using AI to help you with that, to help you with that client journey, you know, kind of like doing what I would consider the meat and potatoes of what you need to do for your marketing.
So to me, this is where AI really thrives, is deploying AI against your firm's data. And so whether that's, you know, client data, intake data, acquisition data, marketing data, the AI is really good at identifying patterns and insights that we are not as good at, especially at scale. You know, CallRail, Conrad and I talk about CallRail all the time. CallRail's AI, and I'll let Conrad, because he's deeper on this, go in, but CallRail can provide you insights about the questions, the issues that your audience is facing that can inform you in a way that can help for content creation, but can also help you identify media buying efficiencies. So, and this is my biggest thing of all of this, especially if you're talking about media buying in general, is if you're not telling the machines which of the exposure awareness ads that they're showing to their audience are actually turning into qualified consultations and clients for you, you are wasting your time and money, because that is where the machines really shine. And I don't know that you're going to create so much waste, and people, we still see this all the time where it's like, you know, they're optimizing media to basic conversion pixel firing, and there's just way too much noise in there. And I think that's a place where like people don't really realize that AI is actually doing that. But deploying AI on firm data, I think that's the place that it really changes everything.
And I think the key to this is, unfortunately, you have to have enough data to make sense of the data. And what that means is, if you are a low volume firm, if you are a solo, that you can't detect a pattern.
I think that's true for media management, but even with it's still a problem at really small numbers. You're not going to get like statistically significant mathematical like insights and analysis, but even just like clumping frequently asked questions together and just seeing stuff like that, I think the AI can help with that. Even deploying it against like CRM. I mean, look, data scarcity is a thing. There's no question about it. But I think sometimes we think about like, okay, to get like to like 99% or 90% statistically significant like insights and analysis, that's a huge problem for small law firms. This is also one of the things that Conrad and I talk about is like, that's one of the advantages of working with a partner who actually has access to a larger set of data. Anyway, well, I'll let Conrad talk about that. But again, when you're taking data from different sources and you're cleaning it up and you're marrying that data, especially when you're talking front-end marketing data with back-end CRM data, there's still a data scarcity issue, but oftentimes you can aggregate enough to give the AI something to chew on. But anyway, that's my point of view. Conrad, go.
No, I mean, the analysis that AI can do I think that's where this gets interesting. Like, the content development stuff is cute, problematic, and it doesn't really, it's not a game changer because everyone else has access to it.
Yeah.
Being able to analyze your data and figure out, you talked about your audience, right? Like, who is your audience? Why do we connect? You can use AI to do that. You can use, like, one of the best things that a high volume firm can do is do lead scoring. Is this a good lead or is it a bad lead? And my great leads are going to go to my best closers and my best attorneys, and my shitty leads are going to go to the worst ones, right? And that is an instant way to make more money without doing any more investment in marketing, right?
Yeah.
You can use AI to do lead scoring. You can use AI. We talk about this all the way. We have not said intake management yet, Gyi, so we're going to say that. You can use AI to score the quality of your intake staff, right? At the phone level, at the individual call level. And now you can pinpoint things where they've made a mistake or where they've done really well. You can have AI make that happen. And now you can become a better manager because you're sifting through a week's worth of phone calls and finding the 3 best ones and the 3 worst ones. And now we have something to talk about on Monday morning. We're going to do a better job this week, right?
Yep. And another one too, because again, this like audience identification stuff, because I think sometimes it gets lost and we get so stuck in like the ways we've always done it. But like, think about taking, the last 10 years, say you're a PI firm, you're doing motor vehicle accidents. think about taking the last 10 years of crash data from your state police websites, public data you can get, and marrying that with demographic information across the state, and marrying that with maybe your average position for your Google business profile, thinking about opening new offices. Like, to me, those kind of cases are the ways that like AI just beats us. Because think about what we would do. We can take that stuff, we can put it in a spreadsheet, we can do pivot tables, we can try to mash it up. AI is going to crush us in that context.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I like that because it kind of gets out of, that's something more than what people would normally do. Like a regular sort of firm isn't going to go and start to analyze those things, because really they wouldn't create the pivot tables. They just wouldn't do it.
Right. They're going to be like, spreadsheet, what?
Yeah. I didn't learn math. That's not what
those are the
what
firms that in the last 3 or 4 years, the firms that figured out the spreadsheet, right, really used that type of data and the analysis on that data. Those are the firms that are winning today, right? And it wasn't AI generated. It was data nerds and MBAs and analytical people. But those were the firms that, I will say, the last 4 years, maybe even 5 years, those were the firms that are now at the forefront. I'll use one example that Gyi and I always sat on a stage with. What's the doggy one? It's not lead dog. It's
top dog.
Big dog. Top dog. Big dog. Lead dog. Top dog. Top dog. Right. They went from nothing to a massive franchise model based on spreadsheets. Right. How can we take that skill and put it in more people's hands? Right. And then this becomes another race to get smarter. But the getting smarter with AI and having AI do the getting smarter part for you, that's magic.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. Is like, this is where this is really transformational, is that it democratizes access to research, data analysis. We're seeing in the context of coding, like you don't have to have all of those different skills in order to take advantage of what the AI can do for your business, and really, we're talking about marketing because we're marketing people, but across the board, operationally, service delivery, audience identification, all this stuff.
Well, I think one of the important things that's kind of coming out of what y'all are saying here, and we can kind of take it all the way back even to trying to figure out where my leads came from. And you're saying if you have essentially if you have one UTM that you put on every link that you have out there, you're figuring out that something came from the internet, but you're not figuring out where it came specifically. And artificial intelligence can help us get into that. It's the value of the data, of the granular data. And I know a lot of attorneys who they don't track this information because they don't see the value in tracking this information. Where did you come from? Who referred you? I don't see the value in that because I just know that Pete down the street refers some stuff to me. We have lower volume, and so I don't need to track it. Well, it seems like if you start tracking, you can use this. I mean, Gyi, Conrad, y'all came up with a ton of different ways to use just the data about my company, about my clients, my potential clients, the world around me, to make informed decisions about my company and my marketing. And so, it makes that data capture more important.
100%. And, because we've heard those stories too. And I'll tell you some other common ones for listeners who maybe these stories will resonate if you're rolling your eyes about all this data stuff. I can't tell you how many times someone makes a strategic decision in their firm about investing in nurturing a referral relationship or buying media or where to open an office that is based on nothing. It's just based on what you just said. It's like a gut instinct. And these over and over again, we see just poor decisions made based on gut instincts. And again, we talk about this on the podcast all the time. you're the go-to person in your community. You're not trying to grow your firm. You're happy. Maybe you're, towards the end of your career. You can have a very successful law practice without any of this stuff. I will say this, you are playing with your hands tied behind your back, because once you see it, you can't unsee it. Once you see the impact of that, your gut instinct was so vastly wrong, and you're about to go invest a bunch of time and money doing things that actually doesn't have any value for really anything, that's when you're like, okay, I can never go back. I've got to capture this data. I've got to get it cleaned. I've got to deploy it on my business.
Yeah.
And this happens, we've talked about expanding offices. Lots of you are thinking about your next office and blah, blah, blah. That's evolved. I call it the centipede strategy when done with analysis. Most of you are really stupid about this, because you will be in the suburbs somewhere and you'll have a rudimentary level of tracking. You'll understand that your Google business profile, you're doing well in the local results because there's no one else around you, not because you're really good at anything, but because there's no one else there. And you're like, well, I'm just going to move right into downtown Atlanta where there are a lot more people. And then, we'll have the same success there. Right. And you're not thinking about the ability to do analysis at this point in time. Like, that is the differentiator between the firms that are winning today, and they've been doing this for 3 or 4 or 5 years, and the ones that aren't. AI is just going to make that a little bit easier. You were talking, Zach, about attribution modeling. Gyi and I talk all the time about dual source attribution modeling. There's the direct response stuff, which is the linear pay-per-click and LSA and some SEO stuff. And then there's all the other stuff, all the other things, right? And because it is all the other things, and it is often many things to an individual client, I called you because of these 27 different reasons. Using AI to capture 27 reasons and knowing that and putting that all together and understanding a map that these 27 different touch points were actually all effective. Like, that's amazing.
You're absolutely right. And that's, sometimes you have those moments where it's like the glass breaks and you're like, holy crap. Yeah. Capturing multi-source attribution actually means something. If you can start to, like, I can't look at a spreadsheet and go, oh shit, there's a pattern there. But I could, operationalize artificial intelligence to potentially find a pattern or find something that looks a lot like a pattern to that. Even if I have 12 potential sources, how did you find out about me? Well, your podcast, your
That's
website,
right.
your book, your, all of those things. Okay, great. Those are all helpful information. And I had never thought of that. The value
So
to that now.
That is, to me, and it's hard to do that. And then it's hard to do the analysis behind it, because it's super, super messy. And one of the things that Gyi and I have talked about is this isn't less attribution modeling. It's more, right? We need to solve this question with more attribution modeling. And when you try, and this is the difference between spreadsheets and AI. In a spreadsheet, you came from one of these 7 different things.
Yeah.
Or maybe it was 3 of these 7 different things, but I'm already defining the things are, because if I don't define what the things are, I can't draw a pretty graph, because I'm an MBA, and that's how we validate whether or not you should keep spending money with your agency, right?
Right.
It doesn't work. Things don't slot into those 7 different options or 10 different options or whatever it might be. It is a whole panoply of things that you might not even think about. And that's where you can go from kind of definitive but flawed spreadsheets to comprehensive, messy, but much more accurate understanding through AI. That's the fundamental shift in what can now be analyzed.
And let me give you another one, because again, if you do the capture right, and there's another whole issue here, which is garbage in, garbage out, but you have clean data that you're working with, and you're including firm financial data. Imagine the power of being able to be like, hey, give me my most profitable referral sources over the last 36 months.
Yeah.
Just like that. You don't need a spreadsheet. You don't need to do formulas. You don't need to do VLOOKUPs. You can converse with your data. It's unbelievable.
Yeah. And like you're saying, we're talking about capturing things in multi-line text fields, for, lack of a better way of really saying it, as opposed to even multi-choice fields, because we're not limiting what people are saying, because quite honestly, we might find that people found out about us from a totally different place than what we thought. I found out the other day that we have a video embedded on some like outdoor magazine website, and it is a video that does it's Marshall Lichty teaching people to tie his shoes. It goes gangbusters on YouTube because it's posted, like it's embedded on this outdoor thing. I never would have thought of that.
Right.
Never would have thought that somebody would have seen that.
I'm going to give you a very relevant to this podcast conversation. In my CRM the other day, someone's like, I've been listening to Gyi since he used to write for Lawyerist, and the quantitative attribution in the CRM said Google CPC because they searched on my name, got a branded ad, clicked on the ad, and then filled out the open field text box on our website. And again, I would have never made that connection. I would have been like, someone's got my name somehow, but I would have never known that it's from that.
Yeah. Okay. We could, obviously you guys could have an entire podcast on all of this.
Entire career.
An entire career on all this. So
dude, that sounds awful. Wow. Thanks, buddy.
But we got to wrap this one up somehow. But I guess what I'm really saying is there's a lot of stuff in here, a lot of kind of like little points that I think would have piqued a lot of people's interest. And you guys have a ton of information on your YouTube channel, through your podcast. If people want to, kind of like look into, better attribution modeling or something, you guys have something on your website for that. You guys have something on the YouTube channel for that. So, yeah, but for our purposes today, we have to kind of bring it down. We have to bring it into it. What would you guys, though, in this world of artificial intelligence, searching and creation and whatnot, give us something that somebody could, like, what would you say to somebody today that they could take away? What do they need to do for their marketing?
Stand out. I mean, that's why I'm like, plus que change, plus c'est la même chose. I'm not a huge French file, but the more things change, the more they stay the same. The legal services consumers change, their behavior changes, the platforms changes, how they research and consume information changes. But at the end of the day, marketing is still about standing out and finding ways for more people to know about you and, more importantly, like and trust you. And whatever you can do, whether that's producing a video, whether you're doing it with AI or not, whether it's writing, whether it's podcasting, whether it's attending local community events, doing more things that get your name in front of people in a way that they trust and like you, that's what you should spend most of your time doing.
Okay.
So I'll give you digitally tactical elements to think about. I believe that this, in order to get included in some of those AI overviews, right? So super, super tactical. I believe this goes back to a very old concept from Google called authorship. It was reinforced by this concept called EAT. Both of those things are kind of annoying, but I would go back and research how authorship happened. And what the key to authorship was tying content to an individual or an individual firm through a web of connections. So LinkedIn, Facebook, all tied to this piece of content that's tied to this website, that's tied to this individual person, right? That's kind of the authorship, and it's the foundation of what Google called EAT.
Okay.
So I would dig deep into that. The other component to this, and Gyi teased this earlier, but never told the punchline, is the directories, right? I think the directories, I think AI has saved the directories because they've become that much more relevant. And I would continue to think about directories that you play in and having a presence there. And he's going to disagree because I saw him pull his microphone closer to him. So he's going to last word this.
I'm not going to disagree. I think that's right. I still think, tactically, I think it's worth researching. We talked about this on our podcast the other day. You have to be a part of the training data to show up in any of these things. It's the same thing. It's the same thing as showing up in Google. If you're not there, if Google doesn't have pages and video content, and if social platforms don't have content, that's the fuel. And so however you're creating that stuff, you've got to be, I think it's worthwhile to be a little bit mindful about, the message, what you're talking about, where you're publishing. But at the end of the day, for so many lawyers, because I know, a lot of lawyers, like, they're like, I practice in law. I don't have time for all this AI stuff. Like, what should I be doing to survive the future? And I would carve out a little bit of time every single day to put something into the world that differentiates you, that talks about what you're interested in your community, that's supporting the local community. If you're a local community lawyer, that's the stuff that's still going to win the day, because when the next person sees that, forget about clicks, forget about likes, forget about all that stuff. You're going to stick in their brain. And that's the most important place to be, because that's what they're going to use when they are like, who do I know that can help me through this, difficult life legal situation that I'm in?
Love it. Love it. Well, Gyi, Conrad, I really appreciate y'all sharing your advice and thoughts on all of this. Yeah. And if anybody wants to, like I've said a couple of times, because I go to Lunch Hour Legal Marketing to watch videos and learn things. If anybody wants to learn more, they can always go to y'all's YouTube channel or the podcast places that people get them. And it's Lunch Hour Legal Marketing. Guys, thanks for being with me.
Zach, thanks so much. It was a pleasure.
Pleasure. Thanks.